The Honourable the Member for Harbour Grace, Port de Grave.
And our viewers at home. It is certainly with great pleasure that I rise in this honourable House today to represent the people of the strong district of Harbour Grace, Port de Grave. Hear, hear. I would like to begin by thanking the Lieutenant Governor for delivering the speech from the throne this afternoon. I'm sure all members in this honourable House would agree that His Honour and his wife have been very dedicated in their roles, and I thank him on behalf of all members in this House, of course, for his service to our province. Mr. Speaker, the residents of my district of Harbour Grace, Port de Grave face the same challenges experienced by people living in the more rural parts of our province. They are hard-working people who deserve access to quality health care, and of course they want their children to receive the best education in the best quality facilities. When we formed government 2 years ago, the future appeared quite bleak. Our fiscal situation was dire. Our Premier, our Cabinet, and our government as a whole were left with very little to work with, to put it politely. Today's speech from the throne outlines our government's vision for a better Newfoundland and Labrador, a place where people want to live, where they want to raise their families, and where they want to work in good jobs. Our way forward is an ambitious plan, Mr. Speaker, but our plan is working because we are listening to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador and including them in the process. As a female MHA, I am proud of the work that our government is doing to advance the status of women in this province. Violence against women and girls is indeed a serious issue, and as a society, we simply have to do more to stop this behaviour. We heard in the speech from the throne that 50% of women over the age of 15 have experienced or will experience at least one incident of sexual or physical violence in their lifetime. The likelihood of experiencing violence is tripled for Indigenous women, and we can all agree, Mr. Speaker, that these figures are much too high. Our government issued an order in Council to fully establish the national inquiry into murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls in this province. As well, just last week, all members of our Honourable House unanimously committed to supporting the Moose Hide campaign, which is focused on ending violence against women and girls, in particular Indigenous women and girls. Last week, the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls held sessions in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and we will continue to fully cooperate with the inquiry and end violence against all women and girls in our country. The Minister of Justice and Public Safety has initiated the Ministers' Committee on Violence Against Women and Girls, and our government, in collaboration with the Public Legal Information Association and the Newfoundland and Labrador Sexual Assault Crisis and Prevention Centre, is developing a program to offer legal support to victims of sexual violence, in particular those who cannot afford the legal counsel. In this session, we will also be introducing amendments to the Family Violence Protection Act to better support adult victims of family violence and their children. Mr. Speaker, we are very aware that a wage gap still exists between women and girls, not just in this province, but globally. Here in our province, we have made progress in the recruitment and retention of women in male-dominated occupations, but we also recognize much more needs to be done. Our government has committed to two important initiatives focused on women in the workplace, women's employment plans for new infrastructure projects, and gender equity and diversity plans for all large resource development projects to help improve training and employment opportunities. As a female MHA, I am very aware of the low number of women who decide to run for public office, whether it be municipal, provincial, and at the federal levels. Statistics from our last provincial election show that only 28% of nominated candidates were women. And if you look around the House, 10 elected members are women, and 3 of 10 cabinet ministers are female. So I'm very pleased that our government will invite women leaders to a forum this year to help develop initiatives aimed at increasing the number of females in provincial leadership roles. Our government is not only interested in protecting the interests of women and children, but all vulnerable citizens. New regulations under the Buildings Accessibility will come into effect in April. Changes to the designated mobility impaired parking regulations took effect in January, which include significantly increased fines for those who illegally park in blue zones. Changes to the Provincial Wildlife Act and regulations and the Hunters and Anglers with a Disability Program have enhanced access to hunting and big game by increasing the allowable distance between a disabled license holder and their designated hunter, and changing policies to provide priority access to big game for people with disabilities. Along with protecting people with disabilities, we are committed to protecting children in care. In 2017, we amended the Child Care Youth Advocate Act in consultation with the advocate so that it is now mandatory for departments of justice and public safety, children, seniors, and social development to report child deaths and critical injuries. We are also committed to working with the Innu Nation in an inquiry into treatment, experiences, and outcomes of Innu in the child protective system. Our government recognizes the values seniors bring to our province. And I can't help but think about my grandmothers every time I talk about seniors. Seniors continue to make significant contributions to our communities, and Mr. Speaker, seniors built Newfoundland and Labrador. We have a collective responsibility to ensure seniors receive the support they need to lead healthy and productive lives. Our government has appointed the first seniors advocate, Dr. Suzanne Brake, to collaborate with seniors, service providers, and others to identify and review and analyze systemic issues. It's a first. Our government values our partnerships with Mental Health Commission of Canada to work with communities and address suicide prevention. Newfoundland and Labrador is the first, as mentioned by His Honourable, to implement Roots of Hope, a suicide prevention project in collaboration with community partners on the Burin Peninsula, which is a service that will certainly be offered province-wide. Recognizing the serious impact of such conditions in the workplace, our government has directed Workplace NL to modernize its approach to providing coverage for work-related mental stress, including post-traumatic stress disorder. In February, Workplace NL announced a review of PTSD coverage in the workers' compensation legislation. Our government is committed to the full implementation of Towards Recovery, a report detailing the work done by the All-Party Committee on Mental Health. In the near future, we will announce plans to redesign the mental health and addiction services system across the province, beginning, Mr. Speaker, with a long overdue replacement of the Waterford Hospital. In 2017, the Premier's Task Force on Improving Education Outcomes released its report, Now is the Time. Our government will use this report's recommendations to support children and youth in Newfoundland and Labrador to achieve their full potential. We committed to releasing an education action plan to guide implementation of the report's 82 recommendations. During this sitting of the House of Assembly, amendments to the Schools Act of 1997 will be brought forward to address the provisions of alternate instruction where someone's presence would indeed be detrimental to the well-being of other students. 5 new schools opened in 2017, and the major development of 3 others has progressed. And Mr. Speaker, at this time, it gives me great pleasure, and I'm very pleased to say that there is finally a plan, a concrete, real plan in place for the long overdue Coley's Point replacement project. I've met with our Premier numerous times. We continue to meet, And of course, when I've stressed this problem, because it indeed is a problem with a 65-year-old structure, the Premier has heard me, and I'm very grateful to say that we've received the people, the children of Colleys Point Primary, and the staff and the parents and the residents of our district will be supported. Of course, I'll continue to work with our Premier, our ministers on this, and needless to say, we can't wait till we turn the sod on this project. Constructions of other new schools will happen in Gander and Paradise will begin this year. Our government will implement a comprehensive technology plan for the K-12 system, including the addition of coding to the curriculum. We continue to support Memorial University and the College of the North Atlantic, and will work to ensure that tuition at both institutions remains affordable and, again, remains among the lowest in the country. Our province is home to some of the world's most talented artists. They come right from Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Speaker. And of course, we will certainly invest and capitalize on our beautiful and unique culture. Our government brought forward a new status of the Artist Act to recognize the important role artists play in contributing to the culture, social, and economic well-being of the province. We have also committed to renewing the cultural plan, Creative Newfoundland and Labrador, by January 2019. And of course, Mr. Speaker, everywhere we go, we know we always bump into talented Newfoundlanders and Labradorians all over the world. One example of how we are capitalizing on our culture is through the provincial film and television industry, which exceeded $50 million in expenditures for the first time this year. This employs an estimated 640 full-time positions. Building on the success of the popular Republic of Doyle, and of course, we're encouraging everyone to tune into a CBC's new production to watch Alan Hocko's new series, Caught, which was written by the award-winning author Lisa Moore. Also, don't forget to tune into Little Dog, featuring our very own Joel Thomas Hines and our female strong producer, Sherry White. As we know, the stories of Newfoundland and Labrador can captivate audiences all over the world, and look no further than the success from Come From Away on Broadway, featured in New York, telling the story of the beautiful people of Gander and surrounding communities, how they opened up their hearts and their homes, and they helped, of course, during that major crisis, that terrorism crisis of 9/11. While we recognize the importance of our traditional Newfoundland and Labrador culture, our government also recognizes the benefits of embracing cultures from all over the world. In 2017, our government launched the Way Forward on Immigration, where our goal is to welcome 1,700 new immigrants to the province by 2020. As well, our government is committed to the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, which is a new way to help employers recruit talent internationally. We will also launch a new international entrepreneur and international graduate entrepreneur categories under the Newfoundland and Labrador Provincial Nominee Program to further encourage economic growth in our lovely province. Our province has much to gain by welcoming more immigrants. Newcomers provide fresh ideas, which our province can embrace to grow and diversify our economy. This is very important in light, of course, of our aging demographics and our workforce. Mr. Speaker, also, we must always work with our harvesters in our fishery, our inshore and offshore harvesters, and all players in the industry. As mentioned by His Honourable, the fishery certainly is the backbone of our province, and we must do everything we can to work with those players for our natural, renewable resources. I am proud to be part of a government focused on the needs and the priorities of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And Mr. Speaker, I am confident in this team. And I'm confident when I say that this Premier, our Cabinet, our government as a whole will continue to be honest and to work with and on behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador as we were elected to do. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I now moved that a select committee be appointed to draft an address in reply to the speech from the throne. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.